As alluded to, we're going to focus this conversation on strategy versus tactics. The reasoning for this is because if we understand the why behind our decisions, those will be replicatable. Tactics, particularly in this environment and a social media landscape, that by the time that we go from starting this conversation to the end of our speech, the algorithm will have already changed. A new platform might already be trending in the App Store right now that none of us know about. This space moves way too fast for any tactics to last. The focus needs to be on understanding the bigger picture strategy, the why behind, so you can effectively adapt on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis accordingly.
And if you're on social media, you'll see some of these gurus talking about specific tactics, what's working, what's going to get you the most visibility. Like Jake said, that's only going to last really just a few weeks at max. Social is always evolving, and the reason these gurus are able to come out with all this knowledge repeatedly is because they have a strategy framework like this that they're likely following whether they know it or not, and they apply those tactics accordingly.
Yeah, we're going to elevate our thinking a little bit here. We're not worried about what time you post.
Yeah, no.
Are we posting 5 TikToks a day or
No.
6?
Yeah.
We're going to think about this in a bigger picture, bigger landscape, focused more and rooted in building brand. So to start this conversation, I think it's most important to pair up why social media is even an outlet for marketers in the first place. So the traditional CAC model that's been the case in the post-internet era, the only era we've truly known, essentially works like this. You have your traditional CAC model, customer acquisition costs. It's the total sales and marketing costs that go into earning a new customer over a specific period. This is the era that early 2000s, early 2010s especially, and even up until the last couple of years, the emphasis was where? It was on Google Ads, Facebook ads, a handful of CAC-driven platforms. Now what do we see? We see rising ad costs across a variety of those same channels, and we see bigger players getting into that space, inflating the ad cost. You're trying to outcompete and outbid against some of the biggest brands in the world like Amazon that can afford to pay that premium dollar that most businesses are unable to. So instead, what we see time and time again from large brands, as well as more particularly on the startup side, is a movement away from the traditional CAC model into a new one. And this is what we define internally as the modern CAC model. CAC standing for creators and communities. This is the new model that will define the next decade ahead. And by the way, this isn't some future thing that doesn't exist already. We're already seeing this. If you go to the grocery store, not just online and some random sketchy D2C website, go to a gas station, you're going to see Prime by Logan Paul and KSI there. What makes their product better than Gatorade, better than Powerade, any of the other shelf by billion-dollar corporations that have been around for 50 to 100 plus years? Their product isn't necessarily better, but they have something, and it is the most valuable asset for their business and for their brand, and that is attention. The same with Mr. Beast, who was overnight able to launch a platform called Mr. Beast Burgers. Leveraging cloud kitchens, he was able to launch 500 plus locations overnight, immediately competing with McDonald's, Burger King, you name it. These are business models that in the past would have taken decades to build, but because they had already the attention, they were able to scale those to significantly large enterprises in a very short period of time. I think my favorite example of this is probably Chamberlain Coffee, which has been a target for the past year. It was just announced 2 days ago. She's now in Walmart, the biggest retailer in the world, largest employer in the world. And we're talking about a product in coffee that maybe someone's a coffee savant in the crowd right now, and you can educate me on why her coffee is somehow way better than any other coffee on the market. We all know that's not the case. She simply has the brand that elevates her product to the next level. All products will inevitably be commoditized. Brand is the only thing that will not. So the most valuable asset for us in this modern economy is going to be attention.
Now, you could argue that these brands are doing very well because of the creators who are in front of those brands, like Emma Chamberlain, one of the biggest first OG YouTubers, huge audience. But if you think in that same framework, why do celebrities who launch limited time products with brands, why do some of those fail sometimes? Look at a recent one with Ariana Grande. That was a huge blunder. You could argue that, okay, they already have a huge audience. If they partner with this company and launch it, it should do well. But it doesn't stop there. you need brands to create like a creator. So these creator-led brands are launching their sub-brands that are putting out social media content that are created the same style that they're creating for themselves. It may not be the same exact type of content, but they're creating like a content creator. They are making different streams of content that belong on these channels, made to grab your attention, educate you, entertain you, and ultimately make you feel closer to the brand. So when we partner with brands, with some of those brand partners you saw earlier, we emphasize creating like a creator, because if you're just gonna tackle your social media strategy as just some kind of ad agency, that's been seen and done before. The old CAC doesn't work anymore. There's rising ad costs all across the board. You really have to invest in your creators and communities in order to succeed.
Yeah, and I think the biggest emphasis point is if you were going to learn a new instrument, a new sport, you would look at who is the best in that field and how can I emulate what they're doing. When it comes to social media, the most popular accounts on social media, it's not billion-dollar corporations and brands. It's not those with the most money. It is creators literally creating content inside of their 500 square foot apartment in New York. Yeah. This model has entirely shifted, and so for any of the brands that we work with, we tell them time and time again, you have to create and think like a creator would, not like a brand would. Decisions should not be made in the boardroom. They should be made in the content studio. So one of the things that we're often asked, and a great conversation around this, is where should we be? What are the platforms we should be looking at? What are the micro communities we should be looking into? This is what we call PAC, platforms and culture. And it's important to note the difference between just social media and the way we think about social media. For one, platforms. There are more platforms today than ever before. That will be the same case tomorrow, and so on. Regardless of whether or not social media and all of the companies and brands and apps in that space fragment in or fragment out, or consolidate, I should say, regardless of what happens there, we look, this tiny little pocket here of social media is what most brands and businesses think about as they think about platforms to reach consumers. The way we think about it, all of these are, in a sense, social media platforms. Consumers exist on them, therefore we have an opportunity to get in front of our potential audience, target, or one-day customer. Therefore, the same social media tactics and strategies we're applying over here, we should look to exist over here. One of my favorite use cases, a couple years ago we worked with a organization called the Florida Everblades. They're a minor league hockey team. This was years ago, so don't make fun of me. And one of the things we did was we launched them actually on Tinder. Why did we launch them on Tinder? Because they had a mascot who was an alligator. And we realized, yeah, we can do some stuff on social media, and we still did that. But what if there was an alligator character and a mascot and a persona with all these punny jokes listed as a Tinder profile? And the number one acquisition funnel for ticket sales in all of their marketing efforts for their entire season was this alligator's free account on Tinder. That just shows you the possibilities. Now, you don't need to be on a platform like Tinder, but this should elevate your thinking to beyond just a handful of social media platforms. And then beyond social media, we like to double click into each particular platform. To say that I'm going on to TikTok, I'm going on to Instagram, I'm going on to YouTube, is to assume that you are reaching every other consumer on there, when in reality, algorithms no longer work like that. Algorithms are all based on interest. They go towards an interest graph. It's driven by a For You page algorithm, no longer based on who you follow or who you're friends with. What this means is that each platform, there exists subcultures in it. My favorite, we had an incredible conversation with the head of marketing at DoorDash. She was telling us about her obsession with hashtag witch talk. And you would think, okay, hashtag witch talk, how large of a community can this really be? 41.1 billion views worth, apparently. Another one of my favorites is hashtag FinTalk, popular advice for finance, investment, you name it.
If anyone remembers COVID early on, everyone was thinking they were like a stock genius
trader,
at that time.
Yeah, FinTalk. So as you think about platforms, once you make a decision on platforms, you have to then look at what are the cultures that exist inside of those platforms that we can look to tap into and create for.